Welcome back to True Story with John Gibson. Today's guest is Reynoso, fighter, commentator, BJJ athlete extraordinaire. Christian, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, John. Super excited to be here.
Oh, my pleasure, man. You're a fascinating guy. I can't wait to kind of dig into some of your just journey, and I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing a little insight into your life.
Yeah, most definitely. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, well, this is my pleasure, man. And I feel like it's always really easy to start from, backwards and come forwards, but I don't want to quite do that today. I do want to do that, but first and foremost, I like to just say, right now, what's a day in the life look like right now for you?
Well, pretty simple. Pretty simple for me. Right now, in the past, I've always kept real busy, but right now it's, I work. I'm at the Chicago Board of Trade CME group. I've been in trading for my entire adulthood.
Right.
I worked in trading and then now I'm a broker on the trading floor. So I do that. I'm usually done by 2:00, picking up the boys. I have 2 kids, a beautiful wife, and doing the suburban dad picket fences to dog life right now.
Yeah.
Usually, obviously, training, jiu-jitsu and all that stuff worked its way into my schedule. But,
Sure.
It's kind of a suburban dad for the most part.
Yeah, which is amazing, because for those of you who were introduced to you kind of the way I was, or knew you anytime prior to right now, you're like a modern day Renaissance man. I feel like, it's very interesting because, as you said, you're a family man. You're very centered. You have a very thriving career, one that you have to be particularly smart and have formulaic too. You're a trader. You had a degree. You have a degree in finance, correct? So
correct.
Yeah, you're obviously a very cerebral person. However, you're also like a pretty lethal guy. You're an MMA athlete. You're one of my favorite all-time commentators ever. For both BJJ and MMA. So there's so much to unpack here, man. And if we can, I'd love to just touch on, your early, maybe high school to college sports career. And then I would love to hear the journey about what led you into fighting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've always been into combat sports. I wrestled in high school. Was a pretty mediocre wrestler.
Okay.
Wrestled all 4 years, but wasn't really, never really did much in the sport. Martial arts growing up, I did kickboxing, boxing. So I was kind of already working my way into MMA before it was really my goal, let's say.
Yeah.
Wrestled all through high school, was nowhere near good enough to wrestle in college, right? When I was a freshman in college, kind of started getting the itch to do something. I remember being at Blockbuster, if you remember Blockbuster, right? renting DVDs. Yeah, right. I remember being at a Blockbuster and picking up a DVD, and it was a UFC, and being like, man, I bet if I rent this, it's going to make me want to, because I already had the itch to compete again. I'm like, I bet this is going to make me want to get back into martial arts or something. At the time, I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I go home, I watch it. I'm watching Randy Couture, Vitor Belfort. I grew up watching the original UFCs and stuff.
Sure.
But, this is it wasn't mainstream just yet, but there were guys that I could get behind, right? So I'm like, I got to give this stuff a try. Sure enough, that's what led to jiu-jitsu. I started jiu-jitsu 2004.
Okay.
Freshman in college.
Wow. You were really ahead of the game.
Yeah, so it's by no means mainstream yet,
No.
This is before The Ultimate Fighter, before any of that stuff. And it was a time when, if you were gonna be an MMA fighter, let's say, you'd go start training jiu-jitsu and you'd meet other guys in the gym, and pretty much everybody was there with the goal of using their jiu-jitsu to fight. There wasn't a lot of jiu-jitsu competition. So if you're training jiu-jitsu, you're probably an MMA fighter, something like that. So it didn't take long for me to go, jiu-jitsu beginner to, what's going on with these MMA fights, and taking interest.
Right.
In that. So that's kind of how it happened. And it happened really fast. I think.
So you always had the natural ambition to fight. You wanted to kind of test it. And then when you felt ready, you went for it. It's amazing. I think I've seen your first fight on YouTube. It's this old cage fight. It's amazing, but it's definitely you. Like there's certain things about you haven't changed at all, but it's amazing. Do you recall your first fight, what that experience was like?
Yeah. So that fight you saw is like the first fight that I had that was properly in a cage.
Okay.
Or I take that back. Properly in a cage in a sanctioned MMA fight. Okay. My fights I had plenty of MMA fights before that one.
Wow.
And the thing was, at the time, it was difficult to get sanctioning in Illinois to do MMA. So promoters at the time were kind of weaving their way through the rules. And what I did is I found a flyer that said there was a full contact karate tournament. I was a jiu-jitsu blue belt. Wow. And somebody told me, they're like, it's not really karate. You should hit up that promoter. I hit up the promoter and he's like, yeah, you know, we can't really call it MMA. So when you show up, throw on a gi top that we'll have here and some belts or whatever. Yeah. And that you guys can fight then. And then if somebody from the commission shows up, it's a karate tournament. Look, they're in gis, right? Yeah. So my first two fights, yeah, no joke. My first two fights happened in one night and I've got this random karate gi on.
Wow.
There was caution tape on one side of the ring. It was a disaster. Like, this is no joke. Like, and so the thing is, at the time, the UFC was a thing already. Yes, but as far as like local MMA, yeah, exactly. It was a Wild West. So you're fighting multiple times in a night, and it's just kind of how it was.
It's so crazy to me. And now I never fought, but I wrestled and I trained, so I knew fighters. I've known plenty of fighters over the years, and I've always admired fighters. And been a fan of MMA and everything. But it just like I have even extra admiration for guys that fought under those conditions and fought more than one time a night. It's way different. The tournament style, or just the expectation in a local event to fight more than once in the same night, like, is really crazy to me now that I think as a 38-year-old man. I'm like, oh my God, like
crazy for me to think about now.
Yeah, it's great. Only the young, like it's pretty wild. Yeah.
I'll say fearless because I don't want to say stupid that back then.
Sure,
but,
fair enough. Yeah. Was it hard for you to find fights in your weight class back then? Did you have to always fight bigger guys?
So I was fighting bigger guys. So the fight that you saw on YouTube was it was my first fight at 135 pounds. Okay. Like before that, it was like kind of 155 and under was kind of just what you guys swept up in. Those are the lightweights, right?
Yeah.
I want to say the UFC didn't even have a lightweight division at the time because they'd done away with it for a while.
Yeah.
As far as local events, they were having 155 and under. And, like I fought in I fought in an 8-man tournament actually once. Oh my God. And it was just 155 and under,
Wow. Wow. That's actually awesome. They came together. They had enough competitors to do that in an 8-person tournament. But what a crazy experience.
Yeah,
wow.
Wild.
So do you have a love for jiu-jitsu over MMA or MMA over jiu-jitsu? Do you have a preference?
So that's a good question. I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. I started training jiu-jitsu with the intention of fighting, like I said, like everyone else at the time. I fell in love with jiu-jitsu immediately.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was very much, it was still stylish. It was still style versus style. You're seeing a lot of that still. Like I remember fighting boxers, wrestlers, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I really relished being able to be like the jiu-jitsu guy right in the area. I was just a blue belt.
Yeah.
And even when I was like a purple belt, I was still like the jiu-jitsu guy because there wasn't a lot of, there were guys way before me, like the Jeff Currans and stuff like that, black belts, but they were kind of already doing the bigger stuff,
Right.
But at the time, there wasn't that much jiu-jitsu in the local amateur scene,
Yeah. And again, to your earlier point too, we're talking, this is like grappling games, maybe Naga. Like there was very limited.
Naga.
Very limited opportunities to compete. Nothing like now, but which actually leads me, it's a great opportunity to segue here. Truly, you're one of my favorite commentators. Truly, I've always been a fan of Fight to Win. Seth has been on the show a couple of times. He's been a huge supporter of me. I love that guy, man. I hate when people give him a hard time because he's a great guy. He's a great person.
Great guy.
How did you get into commentating with Fight to Win? And I have a couple of questions around that, but I guess we'll start there.
All right. So truth be told, I know I'm very grateful for the kind words regarding the commentating. I did my first show May 30th of this year. I'm actually really new to the game and blessed that since my first show, I've had a lot of opportunities. You know, I've gotten a good handful already. I've done, you know, I did Tap Cancer Out. I got to do Fight to Win. I've done 4 or 5 MMA shows. And that's just since the spring. I've always loved commentary. I've always nerded out on the commentators. You know, I love watching UFCs from top to bottom. Like, I'm not just forwarding to the fights. Like, I want to hear the breakdowns, and I have the people that I like and I respect, you know, So obviously I've always kind of been into it. And yeah, you know, I just, I don't know if I'm retired from fighting or not. I'm kind of coming off of a slew of injuries, we'll say. But, you know, after 2020, quarantine's going on, everyone's sitting at home trying to figure out their next move. Yeah. A lot of soul searching going on. I realized I really wanted to pursue the commentating thing. About a year or so ago, I started sending out messages to a promoter I'm really close with. Shout out Brian Angelo from Fight Card Entertainment, who gave me my first shot doing this. I hit him up. I said, hey, give me a crack at, you know, behind the mic. I think I could be good. Yeah. You know, and he had me on, and kind of, it's just been, you know, it's all kind of been going real fast since.
Awesome, man. I feel like you found something. Sometimes people just, it's a fish to water, you know, and people have gifts and they find it, or they find, you know, they just diverge, you know, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. And you have natural charisma, but you are very articulate. But and again, I like commentating too. I'm a nerd again, and I'll give a reference. Like Robin Black's been on this show. Like, I'm a fan of commentators, you know, and how they think. And again, why I really appreciate your voice, I guess, is probably to hear you explain it, but because you are an ex-fighter, and I like Jiu Jitsu, so I really like your voice, you know, and the way that you articulate your messaging and stuff. So, I mean, I guess, how do you do that? Do you just sort of let me ask this, I guess. I want to try to ask this appropriately. When you're commentating, are you just speaking to what you see? Like, hey, this is what's happening here? Or are you trying to be more descriptive in what you're seeing and as to why? Like, this is likely leading, this is triangle, might go to an armbar, for example.
Sure. So, no, it makes perfect sense. So every show, big or little, I try to come as prepared as possible, right? I try to know all the fighters on the card. Which is tricky, like at Fight to Win, I'm doing 5 hours of commentary, but you know, do your best, right? I call it like I see it. You know, I tend to take the play-by-play role, right? So we've got usually I'm on the desk with another expert, right? Whether it's a fighter, jiu-jitsu black belt, somebody like that. I'll call it like I see it. I'll give my 2 cents, but I'm also not afraid to, you know, pass it over to my expert, right? And I think for me, that tends to be the smoother formula. Just because I have a jiu-jitsu background doesn't mean my perspective I couldn't really use the perspective of the expert sitting next to me. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So that's kind of quickly become kind of my formula. You know, I'm ready. I can talk to you about it. I can tell you that I think that triangle is probably going to turn into an omoplata. Right. But what else do we see over here? And that's when I try to work as a team, you know, as best I can. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. You know, one thing, again, I really like about your perspective is I feel like you're aware that it's a show too, you know, and there's an entertainment level to that too. And I guess, and I'll say a tribute to your partners a lot of the time too. You can't do something like that alone. Right. So yeah, it's pretty awesome to hear you sort of describe that and kind of help us understand how that unfolds. Yeah, again, you're really cerebral, man. And then you're able to go back to the day job. What is it like in, you know, December of 2021 to be a day trader? It's wild. I've done, you know, I've traded, you know, on a screen electronically. I've traded on the trading floor, actually open outcry. Wow. That's actually what I do now. I currently work as a broker, so I don't. I'm on the trading floor, you know, from 7 to 2.
You're an intense guy. How are you? You've always been so mellow. Every time I've ever been around you, but like you're able to really get into some intense environments.
Yeah, I guess that's why I can stay so mellow, because I have avenues to kind of take out my aggression, right?
That's the secret.
That's the formula, I suppose.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. It's amazing. I mean, and then to couple that with, you know, just being we're all regular people, but to be, you know, a father and a husband, you know, we all have to take the trash out and all that good stuff too, you know. I appreciate that. So you're very busy, you know, between work and personal things. You alluded to having a slew of injuries. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. All right, let's do this. Let's talk about the MMA career.
Yeah,
that kind of folded into the injuries. How about that?
Yeah, sure.
So the injuries, we'll say this: the injuries started in 2014.
Okay.
Okay. I will say over the last 15. Over the last couple of years, I've had 2 LCL replacements, 2 ACL replacements, and in 2020, and some cleanups along the way.
So we're talking 5 surgeries.
Yeah, this all happened just now, post MMA career, between MMA career and right now being you know, trying to make my name as a commentator. So as I was fighting, I had a lot of momentum as an amateur. I turned pro. Things were going great. Signed to a big, you know, great management company that managed a lot of big name pro fighters. Yeah, I think I told you about that in the past. So I got all this momentum. 1-0 as a pro, lots of hype. I leave my job. I leave my career. I was already a trader. Lucky enough to have some money stowed away.
Sure.
It's time to, you know, go all in on this MMA dream.
Right.
1-0 as a pro. Next fight, I lose a tough decision. Next fight after that, I'm clipped on the chin. The ref jumps in, what I think is too early. Doesn't matter. I'm 1-2 as a pro. Fight right after that falls through. The next one falls through. The fights are just falling through one after the next. Desperately, I take a fight 2 weight classes up on like a day's notice. 50 stitches in my face. 3 rounds later, I'm 1-3 as a pro.
Like, let's stop here for a minute, right?
Yeah, no, and that's like, what leads us to all the injuries. But go on, yeah.
Yeah, but like, and like, I'm no stranger to injuries, but like, I know the reality of, you know, of what it's like to live with it and to rehab and the soul searching that goes along with that process, you know? So just right there, like 1-3, right? And 50 stitches in your face. Like, that's a harsh reality to a dream, you know? So what is your wife saying to you? Like, what are you thinking to yourself at that point? Like, you're like, where are you at?
Yeah. So 1-3 as a pro, 50 stitches in the face. At the time I was recently married. And I remember being in bed getting stitched up, and my wife, who's the most supportive person in the world, is standing there pregnant with our first son. And I'm getting my face stitched up. And I think at that point I was like, well, I don't think this is all too sustainable anymore.
Yeah.
And it was tough, you know. I had really found comfort, I suppose, in identifying myself as a fighter, right?
Yeah.
This is what it was. I left my career because I'm a fighter and I'm going to do this. And everyone loved and admired this guy pursuing this dream of being a fighter, right?
Right.
When you're 1-3 and lost 3 fights in a row, you don't exactly, at least for myself, I didn't feel like a fighter. I kind of felt like a loser, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not to say anyone out there, the losing record is a loser, but I'm just telling you where my mind was, right?
Yeah.
So I do that. I have that terrible fight. And, you know, my pregnant wife's in the audience. I say, okay, well, I'm going to have to figure something out. I'm miserable. It isn't going according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as my son was born, about a month later, I think I was done feeling sorry for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It was time to sort myself out.
Yeah.
And knee surgery, rehab.
Yeah.
And mentally, I was in a bad place. But again, I mentioned my supportive wife. She was with me the whole time.
Yeah.
We had our new son there. There was no time for feeling sorry for ourselves, right? So,
I mean, a beautiful miracle, your son anyway, but also for that time in your life to have that transition, what a wonderful blessing, right? Extra blessing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, I got back into trading. I went back into my career, rehab. And, that's actually kind of what brought me. I had to rewind to tell you about the fighting because right there is where the injuries all started.
So once you stopped competing, the body said, "That's it. Now you owe me."
The body stopped me. Actually, the body stopped me because I was not happy with the way my MMA career had gone. I'm 1-3. I did get back into trading.
Yeah.
I had a job again. My son was here, so I was, I wanted to make sure that all those blocks were kind of in line, but I still wanted to fight.
Mm-hmm.
I blew out my knee training to come back. And then I came back.
Yeah.
And another.
Right.
It's, that's just kind of how it's going.
I understand, I understand where, I guess I'm the same way. I had to ultimately get to a point after 2 lower back fusions, a neck fusion, a bicep rupture. I was like, this is karma telling me, that like, as much as I want this, I probably can't do this anymore. And I have to stop competing, and I just found other ways to kind of channel that energy. And luckily I was still able to train and do those things. And so I don't have that void, but yeah, I feel like a lot of athletes find that, you get to that point where you can't do it anymore, or you can't do it the way you used to. And it's like a hard reality, right?
Yeah. I mean, how many fighters do we see, coming in and out of retirement,
Yeah.
Some of them for the money because they need it. But a lot of them I'll tell you, they don't know themselves outside of the fight game.
Right.
When you're not.
How did you do that though? I mean, how were you able to get away from that identity? Like you said, that was your identity. You identified, I'm a fighter. And then when you finally, how did you transition? How were you able to do that?
Still kind of deal with it.
Okay.
I still kind of deal with it. Now that I'm doing commentary, it's not uncommon for people to be like, it's come up many times that I'm on the desk, like, so when are you going to get back in there? And it's
sure.
And it's a funny talking point,
Yeah.
But of course I get the itch sometimes.
Yeah.
How did I deal with it? I don't, I'm really happy in my current situation.
That's awesome.
Being back in the fight scene, behind the mic, but really being, in the scene again.
Yeah.
For a number of years, I love being a dad, but like as soon as I said all these injuries came, my first son came, my second son came. I was kind of sitting at home doing the dad thing, going to Jiu Jitsu here and there when I wasn't, under, getting surgeries and stuff.
Right.
So now that I'm kind of in this commentary role, or in this commentary world, I'm really happy and comfortable saying that it just kind of scratched. My identity is I'm a dad. I'm a devoted husband.
Yeah.
And I like it that way,
Yeah.
And my dream right now is to continue pursuing this. Like, will I fight again? I don't know.
Right.
I like to compete in jiu-jitsu again. I like to do all that stuff. Will I fight MMA?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't need that to be comfortable with knowing who I am anymore.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, John, for a long time, I did need it. I felt like I needed it.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah. I chased that dragon a long time too, but that's a beautiful thing. You're just very happy where you're at, you know, and I do think it's great. I think it's wonderful that you've been able to sort of have those needs met and satiate through commentary, because you're around it, you're in those atmospheres a lot, and you're an integral part of the fight, man. Your voice, even though the two fighters may not hear it in the moment, their family and friends streaming and who's ever recording and watching for history hear your voice. So your narrative is incredibly important. And for anybody who, and it's crazy, it's our sport, we love it, right? But there's still a lot of people that don't understand it. Not a lot, but it's as mainstream now as ever, right? ESPN and it's everything. But still, if my grandma's watching, you know, I prefer a guy like you who's kind of help explain what she's seeing here, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. And so I just appreciate that about your style. And again, it's the fish to water scenario I used earlier. I'm really glad you found it. Do you still have anything? Do you have anything upcoming? I guess, is there anything on the schedule, or I guess going to the holidays, is it probably kind of bare?
Not so much. I have 2 big shows in December.
Okay.
It's 2 big shows on the same weekend, December 10th and 12th, I believe, that weekend. I'm going to be calling some MMA fights at Cicero Stadium.
Oh, cool.
Friday night amateur show, fantastic card being put together by Fight Card Entertainment. And Sunday night, the pros go on. So it's honestly, I've been lucky enough to be involved in all the shows of 2021 since we came, pretty much all the shows, the big shows since 2021 came back locally. And this is the biggest weekend in local MMA, no doubt. So
that's awesome.
Check me out on there.
What a cool time, right before the holidays, like right before those couple of weekends. And then, yeah, that's great. Cool.
And it is honestly, as a fight fan, I'm just so excited. There's some amazing matchups being put together. So I'm just stoked to be able to go see these fights. And being that I've been in the local scene for a while now, a lot of these guys I've watched come up. And they're just ready to pop. You know, these are the big stars of tomorrow, today. Yeah. So I'm so excited for this show, for these shows in December. So
yeah,
check them out. Cool. Fightcard.net. Get those tickets if you don't mind me throwing in the plugs.
No, that's wonderful. Please do. And I'll include links at the bottom, subsequent links, along with the video links too. And yeah, absolutely happy to share it. If I can go, I'll go. I love fun.
Yeah, please. I mean, it'll be at Cicero Stadium. If you can't, it's all online. You know, you can get the pay-per-view online. It's going to be awesome. I'm just so excited. Yeah. December 10th and 12th. It's that Friday and Sunday. I believe those are dates, I'm not mistaken. So I've got that. I actually already have some stuff in 2022.
Awesome. Great, man.
So yeah, the ball's rolling, John.
Yeah. This is wonderful. Okay. I know we're coming up a little bit on time, but I got 2 more questions for you. One is a real softball, but you know, you got me feeling nostalgic. So we talked about the Blockbuster days, you know, in UFC. That's exactly, you know, I watched the early ones, but Blockbuster was really how I found it, you know, going to checking out all the different ones I could get my hands on. Who were some of your early favorite fighters? Just curious.
Okay. I remember being a kid and my cousin bringing over the VHS and throwing it in the first UFC, and I was like, this guy in the pajamas, this guy in the karate uniform,
right,
I don't know how he's beating all these guys, but I love him.
Royce, so of course, Royce Gracie.
Yeah, Royce Gracie. I love it. I loved it. So of course, Royce, everyone loved Royce. Like, I got to meet him a couple months ago at a seminar.
Wow,
that was like a bucket list for me.
Goat. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I loved him. I was a huge BJ Penn fan.
Yeah.
Of course.
It makes perfect sense for you. I get it.
I love BJ.
Sense. Yeah.
Awesome. You know, I went out to Hawaii to his gym a couple of times. I was like obsessed. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, he's such a scrapper, man. BJ, people like if the younger fans don't know, like, man, BJ was one of those guys. I was like, BJ could probably beat up anybody. Like,
he'll try.
He'll try.
Or he'll at least try.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, man, those are some of my favorites. You know, Kenny Jiu-Jitsu, like, of course, the Jiu-Jitsu MMA, Jiu-Jitsu guys of MMA of the era, you know.
Yeah. Awesome, man. That's great. Pretty cool. All right. So that was the one question. So the second question is also hopefully a softball too. But man, just any final thoughts? Of course, where can people reach you, or Instagram or Facebook, what those tags would be, but you know, any kind of words you'd like to leave people with, or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for this platform, John. I've been a fan for a while, so I was so excited to sit down and have a chance to chat with you. Yeah, final thoughts. Just if I were to give kind of like some advice, which I feel kind of weird saying, but as somebody in the last couple of years or in years past kind of found himself lost and confused and the path kind of just veering, and is also somebody that feels to certainly have a track that I'm quite fond of now. Just kind of don't give up on yourselves, because I'll tell you what, you try to stay positive for the kiddos, for the fam and stuff, but there have been some really trying times over the years past. And especially with this whole trying to find my identity, I'm not fighting. I can barely go to Jiu Jitsu, I'm on crutches around the house. It's all this stuff, it's not easy, but you can figure it out. And sometimes things, the universe, whatever your higher power, things can drop it just in line for you. So I think I'm a good example of that. I'm in a good position right now. I'm happy with where I'm at. And it wasn't always that way. So I guess I kind of wanted the opportunity to talk about that on this platform, the former fighter identity struggle. You can do it. I'll say that much. I also want to thank everybody for their support. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be watching this after I share it that have been super supportive with me as I kind of transition to this commentary world. I'm getting a lot of, again, support, great feedback, and I'm just so grateful for it. I said it earlier, I'm not afraid to say it. I feel really new to all this. It's just all kind of moving really fast. I'm very grateful to everybody. Grateful to, my family for being supportive, my wife for being so supportive, all the organizations that have given me a shot, Fight Card Entertainment, Tap Cancer Out, Fight to Win. I'm a very grateful person. And I just want to say thank you.
Man, beautiful. Beautiful. They're all, I'm sure, very happy to be working with you too, man. You're super talented. And this has been my pleasure, Christian. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, check me out, Reynoso125 on Instagram. I post everything, as far as like my upcoming events and stuff on there. So Reynoso Fanatic 125. And reach out, follow me, and follow the journey, because who knows? We'll see what's next.
Exactly. Perfect. This is True Story, John Gibson. Again, Christian, my pleasure. Thank you so much.